Hello all, welcome back to this video series on important topics. Today we'll interact on some important topics related to science and technology. We'll divide science and technology into health and then space, defense, IT, etc. So in this part of the video, we'll talk about the health aspects since we are going through this COVID pandemic. Health assumes a lot of importance. So we'll talk in health about the various diseases that have been in news. We'll try to talk about the various legislations and initiatives taken by the government to control some of these diseases, and then the pharmaceuticals, etc. So we'll start with the diseases. We'll divide the diseases based on the diseases caused by the virus and the diseases caused by bacteria, and then diseases caused or some rare diseases, etc. So we'll start off with the virus. So virus is basically a biological agent that replicates itself in a host. So once the cells are diseased with this virus, it starts replicating in a very rapid way, just like copying the original virus into several viruses. Just like we do a photocopy. Suppose you have to take 100 copies of a particular document. You just put it in the photocopier and press 100, and then 100 copies are generated. That's how the virus replicates at a very rapid pace in the host cell. And then basically the virus has two types of genetic material. I'm sure you all know about it, the DNA and the RNA. The DNA replicates in the nucleus of the cell, whereas the RNA replicates in the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is just a fluid solution occurring from the nucleus up to the cell membrane. So it's a very large area which consists of both the water, protein, etc. So the RNA virus has a much larger medium to interact and replicate. Also, another important difference between DNA and RNA is while RNA replicates in a very regular fashion, follows one particular pattern, the RNA replicates in a very erratic and is always error. So there's so much of rapid replication of the RNA virus. So RNA virus is much more deadlier and much more dangerous because of its erratic replication as well. So you see, the viral disease is basically a disease caused by the viral infection, and most of the viral diseases are contagious and can move from one person to the other through the droplets from sneeze or cough or through personal contact, etc. So we will see what are the type of viruses and what are the diseases they cause. As I've told you earlier, the DNA, the genome of DNA is very large, whereas the genome of the RNA is small. So some of the diseases caused by the DNA viruses are most of the common respiratory diseases. You have smallpox, you have chickenpox, and then mononucleus, cold stores, etc. This chickenpox is again resurfaced in a couple of places in India. We'll discuss about that later. And then RNA viruses, you all know, are the more deadly viruses. Diseases that causes, first is the AIDS. The HIV virus causes the AIDS and the influenza, common cold, polio, measles, rabies, and more deadly viruses called the SARS, Ebola, and of course the coronavirus. So, coronaviruses, I'm sure every day you're reading about it and you're already aware. Basically, there are 4 types of coronavirus. Of these, two, one is the SARS and the other is MERS. These are deadly viruses which have been causing a lot of damage. SARS is severe acute respiratory syndrome, whereas MERS is Middle East respiratory syndrome. So while we do not know how the from which animal the SARS has come, we do not know the source. It is believed, as far as the MERS is concerned, that it has probably come from camels to humans in way back Saudi Arabia in 2012. So since these are related to the coronavirus, probably this could be important. So the other reason for finding it very difficult to treat these viruses or develop vaccine is the variety. So if you take, say, compare bacteria with viruses, bacteria are like cars. There are so many cars, but there is one common thing, that there are steering for all the cars. So there is some kind of a distinct commonality. So similarly, the bacteria, all the bacteria, varieties of bacteria are there, but all of them have one common thing, that is a common cell wall. So it is very easy to break that cell wall by using the antibiotics or medicines. Suppose you have TB, within 6 to 9 months, depending on the constitution of the patient, the antibiotics are given. The antibiotics continuously try to pierce the outer cell wall of the bacteria, which are generally very thick, but finally they will be able to pierce that and kill the bacteria. But when it comes to viruses are like you have a car, you have a bullock cart, you have a table, you have a chair, and you have a bridge. So absolutely there is no similarity as far as any of the virus is concerned. So to attack, or how do we actually go trace the parasite cycle within the cell? We don't even know if the virus which is not even alive. So we don't even know where in the cell it is going and which part of the cell it is attacking. So it becomes very difficult to actually target it. In fact, it can even be worse, because if you are not able to target the disease or the sickness, you may be targeting something else. So you will be doing more harm than good. So that is what becomes. It is not that the science has not advanced to a stage where we are able to find some distinct differences. Yes, there are distinct differences as far as the enzymes of the virus and compared to the enzymes of human beings, and to that extent we are able to, say, for example, have a treatment for the HIV. But again, we are not able to kill the virus. We are only able to control or suppress the amount of viruses that are present. And even for HIV, you have to take the treatment or the medicines throughout your life. So in this scenario, I am an incorrigible optimist that science can one day come up with a vaccine or the antiviral drugs for the coronavirus as well. But as I told you, these two important points are there. Unless these are addressed, it becomes a far cry to even think about a vaccine at this stage. And then this various viral infections in India, you please note down, because these are the emerging viral infections in India to the last couple of years. Try to remember, this is a small list which I have made. So something related to this can also come in these objective questions. And then polio, the polio type 3 has been eradicated. So it was in the news, but there are, in spite of eradication of polio, including in India and other countries, there are 3 countries where it is still endemic, that is Afghanistan, Nigeria, and Pakistan. And then HIV. HIV has again been in the news. One, because a subtype of this human immunodeficiency virus has been found. And also recently the WHO has recommended this dolutegravir. This is a drug which can be administered for treatment of the AIDS, both the first line and the second line drugs. So this is a very important development as far as the treatment of the AIDS is concerned, because now there is one particular drug which can, otherwise there used to be a combination of drugs which the patient had to take. And then the other viral disease, dengue. Dengue is caused by Aedes aegypti mosquito, but that's not all. Recently, they have found that dengue can also be transmitted through sex. So that can be dangerous, and this is something also to be noted, because a lot of research is also being done on how the dengue is getting transmitted through sexual. And then H1N1, this is swine flu. This has also been on the rise during the last couple of years. As you all know, it is an influenza affected by the pigs. It goes through the human, and that's how it gets transmitted. Again, for this also, there is an issue as far as the treatment is concerned. And then you have chickenpox. As I've said earlier, this chickenpox has again resurfaced in particular district, particularly Alappuzha districts of Kerala, another 7 districts nearby. So this could be a danger. This has been in the news. You can see it has come in the Hindu newspaper on March 1st, 2019. So this is something which you should keep a note of. And then this is another new case which has been detected in India. The first case of HNN2 has been reported in India. So there can be a question related to what is H9 and N2. And now, after the viral diseases, we will understand the bacterial diseases. So tuberculosis has been on the rise. Many of the cases are also not being reported. So this is very important in spite of the revised national tuberculosis program, applauded to be a globally distinguished and a successful program. The TB cases continue to be on the rise. So something related to TB also there could be a question, because some new initiatives have been taken by the government. And then glanders. Glanders is another disease caused by bacteria, though mostly it occurs in mules, horses, and that family. It can also spread to humans, because you have these jockeys and the cleaners of these animals who can actually get infected with this. Then salmonella is basically caused by the food we eat. So salmonellosis, that could be another very dangerous and prevailing and spreading disease in the recent times. And then brucellosis is a contagious disease, generally occurring in the livestock, poultry, etc. And then Wallabascia is a very interesting bacteria that infects basically some insects. So there is a proposal from some of the scientists that this could probably use to in fact control dengue. And then lymphatic filariasis. This is one of the more India's successful program because we give this mass drug administration called the MDA. No other country follows this mass drug administration. You also, I hope you all understand this lymphatic filariasis, because that occurs through a small microfilarial worm which is carried by the mosquito, and then it goes and pricks the human. Of course, it takes a lot of time because the small worm has to be put inside the human body. It takes a lot of bites and takes about nearly 5 to 6 months for the mosquito to put that microfilaria inside the human body. But once it is put, you develop this kind of disease, filariasis. It occurs in a few pockets of a country where the temperature is more humid, etc., and all that. Of course, there is also a particular treatment, and it can be cured. And then pneumonia, recently the government has launched this chance campaign. So you remember what are the provisions in this and all that, since this is a new initiative by the government. And then rare and new diseases. This has been in the news not only in India but also in the global front. What are these rare diseases and what rare diseases are there which are happening in our country? Basically, rare disease according to the WHO, any disease which is about 1 per 1,000 of population is classified as a rare disease, but this norm need not be uniformly applied to all the countries. Each country has its own rare diseases. So what are rare diseases? As I said, 1 or less per 1,000 persons. And then the Indian scenario is about 90% of the rare diseases have no approved treatment. And that is where the danger is. So if we do not have any regime or any prescribed treatment for it, this rare disease can also become dangerous. Could be also grow up to a pandemic, etc. And then the typhoid conjugate vaccine. This has been developed by Pakistan. You can see this is the Thai bar. And India also, but the Bharat Biotic has developed this. So this is quite a landmark discovery. So this could be a question. Then avian botulism, you know that in the Sambar Lake there was a lot of deaths of these birds, and this is because of this particular disease. So this disease also in that context becomes important. And then coming to the pharmaceutical side, antimicrobial resistance is going to be important. As I have told you, as far as the bacteria is concerned, or the virus is concerned, or including the TB bacillus is concerned, there has been a lot of resistance. Basically, microbial resistance develops because, say, let's take, for example, bacteria. So if you, for treating TB, we all know that bacteria has a cell wall, and to treat TB, this cell wall is attacked because it is targeted. A dose of antibiotics is given, is continuously it penetrates the wall, the cell wall of bacteria. Then finally, after a period of time, it crushes the wall, gets in and kills the bacteria. But then that happens only if you take the full dosage, maybe 6 months, 9 months, as the doctor has prescribed. But if you fail to take the dosage, or if you have missed maybe a couple of times, then that bacteria develops resistance. So this can be dangerous, because then you will have to use multi-drug resistance, just not the antibiotic. You will have to use some more medicines to ensure that you cure it. So this microbial resistance has been on the rise, both in terms of TB and the other diseases. So you try to understand this very clearly. What are the various diseases where there have been this microbial resistance? In fact, even in malaria, there is supposed to be microbial resistance, because once, if you have missed the regime, you will get the disease again. And then the global tuberculosis report for 2009, it says that we are more or less on track. So you understand what are the various provisions and what are the various achievements as far as the TB program is concerned. Then, as I told you earlier, there have been some legislations, a lot of activity happening as far as the disease control is concerned. Medical devices amendment rules have come, so this you should be very clear what are the various provisions in this, and you should also know what CDSCO is. Then also government notified medical devices as drugs. This is another very important development. And then the National Essential Diagnostics list was brought out by the Indian Council of Medical Research. This is also another important development. And then you have this CDSCO. CDSCO as a part of the Ministry of Health under the Directorate General of Health Services. What is their mission? What are the objectives of this particular organization? That can be an important one because they have been in action for the last couple of years. And then POSOCO, you know, I'm sure about this, that on April 5th, the Honorable Prime Minister had announced that there will be a switch off of lights, etc. So this POSOCO, they swung into action, and then they started implementing this program. So something related to this can come. And then hydroxychloroquine, India has decided to ban this, the export of this. So we'll try to understand the background of this, why India banned, and then why this drug was exclusively being produced in India and all that related stuff. Then reverse transcription. Reverse, generally, the transcription happens from DNA to RNA. But here in the reverse transcription, it is the RNA which gets transcribed into a DNA. So what is this reverse transcription? Why it is in the news? Where is it being used and all that? Please study quite well. And then herd immunity. Herd immunity is basically trying to pick up a representative group of population and ensuring them they develop immunity, so that that immunity can translate itself into the larger population. This herd immunity has been started by the United Kingdom, particularly in the context of the COVID-19. So this is another important area, whether this is other countries can use this technique or not. Similarly, from the same context, you should also understand what is R naught. This is also part of that herd community in that context only. It basically is a kind of a scale which indicates how contagious and infectious disease is in a representative population. And then hantavirus is a family of viruses caused by the rodent. Recently, China has reported this, since China also reported the SARS virus and the coronavirus. So we should take clue from that and be careful about this hantavirus as well. And then nano-pharmaceuticals, this has been a development. You all know nano means micro, so there have been a lot of use of this nanotechnology in various fields. Say, for example, the sunscreen we use is nothing but part of the nanotechnology. So now this nanotechnology is also being used for the pharmaceuticals. And then vaccine hesitancy is basically trying to withhold not taking the vaccine. WHO has published a few reports on how it occurs and why it occurs in the various communities. And then now we come to food and nutrition. Food fortification, nearly 70% of the people in India consume less than half of the recommended dietary. So this has been on the news. And then terms like hidden hunger and in all related to this, you please study and remember. Then the e-cigarettes, or what is called as a process of vaping. This has also been in the news because there's been an ordinance promulgated recently. The DNA Technology and Application Regulation Bill, this has also been in the discussion and in the government quarters and at various medical institutes. And then gene therapy product, ICMR recently published national guidelines on this gene therapy. This has also been in the news and this becomes very important from the examination point of view. And then dry sorbent injection, this is nothing but a way of injecting dry alkaline minerals into a flue gas stream and to reduce basically the gas emission. This is a new technology that is still in trials. And then Arogya Pacha plant is a very important species found in the Agasthyamala hills, and it's known to be a miracle plant for its traditional use. This is the human atlas, Manav. This has also been in the news, basically trying to, it's a kind of an interactive atlas of the human biology. These are the various aspects of this particular thing where everything is mapped. Earlier, always the cell used to be mapped, but now here through this Manav, they are trying to understand how each of the tissue that is present in our bodies and how it behaves. So it maps the entire tissue domain of our body. Then this Ummid initiative is the unique method of management and treatment of inherited disorders. This is another initiative taken by the Department of Biotechnology in a big way. And then NIDAN is National Inherited Diseases Administration. Various diagnostic centers have been set up by the government. This is another very interesting initiative. And then PNUL is nothing but a kind of a blood group which is very, very rare, and it becomes very difficult to treat patients with this kind of a blood group, and this makes it very difficult, even more difficult for blood in case of emergencies. And then this is one kind of a variant rice called the Muktoshiri. This particular rice, it has developed resistance to arsenic contamination. So this is one variety. They may just give you in the objective what are the types of rice. You have golden rice and all that, and then you should know which is resistant to what. So the golden rice is genetically modified to counter the vitamin A deficiency. You can see this as the golden rice. So that's all in this particular part of the health of science and technology. I'll come back to you with more of important topics related to space, related to defense, related to IT, etc. And all the best. I hope you are all studying well and you are all confident, and I'm sure you will be able to clear the prelims.
For more videos, subscribe to BNby IAS and press the bell icon to never miss an update.